Welcome home to philosophy, where we wonder about everything and anything is possible. Hi, I'm Dr. Robert Corey, the Laughing Philosopher. Life is complicated, the world is complicated, and you are complicated. Figuring out how to live a happy, meaningful life, guided by wisdom and reason, is not easy. Is life a game? What is love? Should I fear death? Is this a just world? Almost from the moment of birth, you've been told how to behave, how to fit in, and how to fulfill other people's expectations. You fear that you will lack importance or cease to exist in the lives of others if you think for yourself and question the rules and roles you've been told define you. Wisdom and reason will remove this illusion so you can live authentically in the world around you, find your true purpose, and become your real self. Welcome to episode number 111. Should you care what the majority think? Socrates' Guide to Not Giving a Damn. Should you care what people think? If a shorter man marries a taller woman, what will people think? If a young woman marries an old man, what will people think? If you carry an umbrella on a sunny day, what will people think? If a man wears a bow tie, what will people think? Should you care what the majority of people think? Is following the majority wise? Why bother thinking for yourself? Almost from the moment of birth, other people's opinions and expectations nudge, coerce, and compel our thoughts, feelings, and actions. We are, after all, social beings. Our biography is social. It even takes two people to create a new one. And yet, we really shouldn't care what the majority of people think. The majority have never been a guarantee of truth, wisdom, or happiness. Who condemned Socrates to death? The majority. Who killed Jesus? The majority. Who chose Hitler? The majority. If the majority is a guarantee of virtue and morality, then why isn't heaven a democracy governed by what most people think? Socrates says, screw the crowd's opinion. Why would Socrates ignore the crowd's opinion? Socrates' case for independent thinking is found in Plato's dialogue known as Crito. In the following passage, Socrates discusses why following the majority is unwise and other people's opinions don't matter. We must not then regard what the many say of us, but what he, the one man who has understanding of just and unjust, will say, and what the truth will say. And therefore, you begin in error when you, Crito, advise that we should have regard to the opinion of the many about just and unjust, good and evil, honorable and dishonorable. In this passage, Socrates argues that the only opinion that really matters is the one of the person who truly understands the nature of justice and morality, and not the opinion of the majority. Don't let the crowd steer your brain. We should value only good opinions from wise persons and ignore bad opinions from the foolish. The wise know best. We should seek and accept only the advice of people who have wide and deep knowledge of things. We should care only about the opinions of experts in their field, such as philosophers and physicians. Physicians possess important and valuable knowledge of the health and well-being of the physical body. If we ruin the health of our body by following poor advice from one who has bad or no knowledge, life will not be worth living. Good character is just as important as physical health. So who should we consult for advice? The wise know best. We should care only about the opinions of people who are wise in the nature of justice, morality, and virtue, such as philosophers. Ethics is the study of morality and the rightness and wrongness of things. One ethical opinion is greater than the majority's unethical opinion. One physician's wise opinion is greater than the majority's unwise opinion. One philosopher's opinion of right and wrong is greater than the crowd's opinion. The wise know best. Don't trust your physical or moral health to a flock of sheep. Forget the flock. Democracy shouldn't mean that the majority's ignorance is equal to the expert's wisdom. Are you a free thinker or a social groupie? The majority's approval and acceptance feel good. Conformity is not free, but for a price it can be had. The price is freedom. The freedom to think for yourself and make up your own mind using your own wisdom, experience, and good sense. Should you sacrifice your freedom to gain the majority's approval? Should you sacrifice your principles even to save your life? No, said the living example of Socrates. In the dialogues of Plato is a conversation between Socrates and his buddy, Crito. Socrates is in jail. He has been arrested, prosecuted, and condemned to death by drinking poison. Socrates has been convicted of corrupting the youth of Athens by teaching his students to think for themselves. The jury sentenced Socrates to death by a vote of 280 to 220. The majority voted to kill Socrates for encouraging people to think independently from the flock. In Crito, Plato writes, Crito bribes the guards to gain entry into Socrates' prison cell. Crito has cunningly arranged Socrates' escape. The jailers will look the other way, and now Crito just has to convince Socrates to flee Athens. Easy peasy, right? No way, replies Socrates. Socrates flat out refuses to escape. Socrates chooses to die so that honor and justice might live. Crito is shocked. He argues with Socrates to carefully consider what people will think. What will people think of Socrates for neglecting his wife and family? What will people think of Socrates for choosing death over life? What will people think of Socrates for abandoning his mission to teach others how to think clearly and reason soundly for themselves? What will people think of Socrates' friends like Crito? People will think his true friends did nothing to save their wise and trusted mentor, and Socrates' friends will be defamed and scandalized. Crito pleads with Socrates to consider what people will think. Socrates says, screw what people will think. Socrates tells Crito to mind his own business and ignore everyone else's opinion. Socrates explains to Crito that good character requires 3 principles of everyone. Never wrong another person, never harm another person, and keep your promises. Socrates explains that the majority would disagree. The majority would argue that acting unjustly can often work out to one's benefit. Breaking your promises can give you an advantage over others who keep their word. Wronging and harming others can give you an advantage over others who draw a line they won't cross. Bad character would argue that crossing the line and then moving the line can be advantageous. Socrates explains that those who respect and choose to live in a just world, and those who obey and choose to practice the virtues of good character, are just losers. To the majority of people who choose to sacrifice their principles to gain advantage and win, good people are losers. Socrates explains to Crito that a just world demands that people of good character hold themselves to a higher standard than those in the majority. Conformity and obedience to the majority must be conditional on the majority behaving justly. We must never sacrifice our principles, even to save our own life. Disregard everything, argues Socrates, but honor and justice. The risk of following the majority's opinion is bad character and one's character is one's fate. What the majority thinks doesn't matter, explains Socrates. Ignore what people think. First, most people don't know what they're thinking or doing. They don't act, they react. Their behavior is an instant reaction to the pleasantness or unpleasantness of the moment. Their behavior is dictated from moment to moment by pain and pleasure, satisfaction and dissatisfaction. Second, most people can't tell the difference between good and bad, right and wrong, moral and immoral behavior. The majority's opinion changes in unpredictable ways and for no reason. What people love today, they will hate tomorrow. It's random. The majority will love a certain person for one quality and hate a different person for the very same quality. It's irrational. Socrates explains to Crito that at the moment of birth, the individual and the majority sign a contract, a social contract. At any time, the individual is free to leave the majority. If the majority behaves unjustly and the individual decides to stay, then the individual must try to persuade the majority to change. And if the individual fails to persuade the majority and the individual still decides to stay, then the individual has no choice but to obey and conform. Socrates must drink poison, and Jesus must be crucified. Don't worry about the cost of thinking for yourself, explains Socrates. Don't worry about what people will think of you. Be open to new ideas and new knowledge. Listen first to experts, not everyone else. The majority is only interested in control, regulating human behavior and social order. The individual prefers freedom to think with the risk of disorder rather than control without freedom. The sole aim of life is living well, not just living. Be a person of good character. Act justly, the right way, and not the wrong way that advantages you. Do not change your views or sacrifice your principles, especially when you are facing the horizon of death. What is the risk of following the majority's opinion? The individual is intelligent. The majority is stupid. Why is this true? Two key reasons are behind this: the risky shift and the bandwagon effect. The risky shift refers to the tendency of an individual in a group to make weirder, dumber, and more extreme decisions compared to when he or she is thinking alone. Group decision-making shifts the individual toward more crazy, irrational, and riskier options. The social group's consensus decision is more weird and extreme than the individual's decision made outside the influence of the group. Why does this happen? In a social group, the individual feels less personally responsible for the final decision, as responsibility is shared among all group members. The individual feels more free to be more weird and more extreme. The individual wants to feel accepted and approved by the group, and also feels a need to outdo others in conformity by being even bolder and riskier and stupider. The individual's solitary preference will automatically adjust to conform to what he or she believes is the group's collective preference. Weirder, more unreasonable, and more irrational arguments just seem to appear more sound, valid, and sensible in a group. The individual may shift the other way also, toward more cautious and less risky, but weirder and stupider decisions in the direction of the majority's perceived preference. Being in a group makes an individual stupider. The individual may be intelligent, but in a group will act stupid, whether riskier or more cautious, whether taking bigger risks or playing it safer. People as a social group are stupid, think stupidly, and do stupid things. Social groups run away from the very things they should be running toward, and run toward the very things they should be running away from. Social groups go the wrong way to get to the right place. When groups go wrong, don't go with them. Belonging feels good, but so does thinking for yourself. The bandwagon effect refers to the tendency of people in a social group to adopt certain behaviors, beliefs, or emotions just because they perceive that the majority is doing the same. The more people adopt a particular belief or opinion, the more likely others are to jump on the bandwagon. The bandwagon effect, like the risky shift, is motivated by a desire to fit in and conform in order to gain the majority's approval and acceptance. Why does this happen? People assume that if the majority is doing something, then it must be best, correct, and the right thing to do. Voters will support a candidate who seems to have the support of more voters. People fear being left behind or missing out on something desirable. People follow along and buy things because they perceive that many other people are buying them. People like or share social media content because it's being liked or shared by many others. People belong to a group making a decision and just assume the majority must be right and follow along without bothering to think through the decision and reason it out for themselves. People engage in certain beliefs and behaviors, not based on individual thought and reasoning, but based on the collective judgment and influence of the group. Why think for yourself? The group can do it for you Can you escape the bandwagon effect and the risky shift? Can you escape the stupidity of the majority? True freedom means fearlessly revealing yourself to the majority, revealing who you are, revealing how you feel, and revealing what you believe. When you remove the mask and stop playing the role, it feels good, doesn't it? To live without being afraid of the majority's opinions and expectations. To be an individual, to be true to yourself. You can have that feeling every moment of every day. Trust the wisdom of Socrates. Think for yourself. And when the majority goes wrong, don't go with them. Go with Socrates. Thank you for listening. I hope you will take what you've learned and be a better person. Think for yourself. Question everything. Accept nothing that does not agree with your own reason and good sense. And I promise you, despite its sham and drudgery, you will get on pretty well in this crazy world. I'm Dr. Robert Corey. Until we meet again, be good.